G'day guys, it's Ross out here in the garden and it's time for another autumn gardening job. Now I've just done a video on refreshing garden beds. This one here, just a straight compost bed, needed refreshing. This one here had sunk quite a lot, we did that one. And the one over my shoulder here, which was mostly soil, a little bit of compost, we've done that as well. So we've got rid of that summer growth, the last of the plants just finishing off, and we've topped the soil up and we've given it all the nutrients and compost and some slow release fertilizer and got it ready. Now we're going to plant out. You think, well, what are we going to plant? It's getting into winter, autumn into winter. So what I've done is I've come prepared with a bit of an arsenal. I've got a whole bunch of seeds. I've got a couple of seedlings I bought yesterday, and I've got some icy pole sticks and a Sharpie. And what we're going to do is plant out our garden. Now, what are we going to plant? Well, first thing, we've got cabbages. And these are lionheart cabbages. They're going to go into this bed, and with cabbages, as with most brassicas, you want to rotate them. You want to do crop rotation where possible. Don't put them in the same place year after year after year. They're heavy feeders, and if you put them in the same place every year, you can also encourage disease and root rot and things like that. So you want to move them around. All right, well, these are very simple. They go straight in. We're not going to get too complicated about it. The great thing about these seedlings you get from the hardware store is they're very, very easy to deal with, especially the singles. Tiny little hole, pop that down. Now, this could do with a little bit of mulch. And I've got a little bit of straw that I might just pop on. But seeds, I do not mulch here. Now, when I do go to the hardware store or Green Life or a nursery, I do look for the punnets that have more than what they're supposed to. This was a 6-pack, and they don't always thin them out as well as they should. And you often end up with 2s and 3s where there should be a 1, but you have to be careful splitting them apart. Otherwise you can end up with a stalk and no roots, which means it's going to die. Okay, put that one in there. Now I'm robbing this little bit of straw from one of my other beds, which is pretty much finished. And this straw is partially composted down, so it's some of it's light and some of the stuff on the bottom is heavy. See that I'm tucking the straw in to making sure that those leaves are being lifted towards the light, and I'm not chucking the mulch around it in such a way that I'm robbing it of light, because that is counterproductive. The thing about brassicas is you have to give them a minimum of 6 hours of daylight per day. Now, the sun comes from behind me to behind you, and so that means I've got a gum tree and a lemon tree here, so about 10 o'clock in the morning in a winter's day through to about 5 o'clock in the afternoon, it's going to have full sun. But if you've got some somewhere where they are in shadow, move them. If it's a garden bed, don't put brassicas in, put something else in. Okay, because they're just not going to do well unless they're getting lots of sunlight. So there you go, so I can see all of my plants sticking out, every one of them, through that mulch. And that mulch is going to, yes, it is going to help with retaining moisture. That's not such a big issue in winter here. The main issue here is it's going to help regulate the soil temperature. So the soil's not going to get as hot and cold as quickly as it would without the mulch. So there you go, this bed's done. I've left the basil. If I get any more mulch, I might do the basil as well. All right, we'll do the basil. Basil's a bit easier because it's established. The smell of that basil is absolutely beautiful. And even if you just have it for the smell, that alone is worth having basil in your garden. It does smell really, really nice. And the great thing about planting a whole lot of things together, including flowers, herbs, and vegetables, is that they can dissuade some of your bugs from coming along, because they get confused, all the different smells. There you go, so the whole bed is mulched. I'm not going to mulch either of the other beds, because all I'm going to do there is put in seeds, not seedlings. And when you put in seeds, you don't want to make it any harder for them to get the light. Wait until they've come out, wait until they've got clearance, good 10 centimetres, 4 inches, and then mulch. Don't mulch beforehand. Okay, that one's done. I've got an ant biting me. Go away, little fella. Now we can see this bed here has this nice trellis. It's only tied on, but I've got a nice piece of trellis here. Goes up about 1 metre. And I had a huge amount of success last year with peas. Now, always mark your peas. These are November 24. These should last 2 to 4 years. and they're quite dried out, but they should go straight in here and do quite well. I've also got peas from last year. I've got some rock melon seeds in there too. Now the thing is, I could go down the store and buy some, but what I did instead was I picked some really nice peas. These are all snap peas. You can go buy them, right? Now, you don't know where those peas have come from. You don't know where the peas have been harvested from, what sort of growing conditions they were. You put them in the ground if you've never grown them before. And then what you do is you pick the ones that did well, and you go, well, they clearly work well in this environment. They were big, they were sweet, they were just beautiful. And they grew right here. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to go down every 5 centimetres. I'm going to put a pea in, and I know these peas work well in this environment. Beans. Now, some people think peas and beans are similar. Well, there are some similarities. They're a legume, and they climb up a trellis generally. However, you cannot plant beans in autumn or winter. They are a spring-summer crop. Other than broad beans. If you've got broad beans, I'm not a fan of broad beans, but if you've got broad beans, yes, you can absolutely plant those this time of the year. And there may be a few others, but generally they are a spring crop, not an autumn crop. There we go, all done. So what I'm going to have right up the middle are these peas. Now, I want to make the most out of this garden bed. So now I've got to think about what else can go in there. Well, I've got some choices. I've got spinach. Now the thing about spinach is going to get quite big, and I think they're going to interfere with each other, so that's going to go in that bed. I've got carrots. I'm not sure they're going to go in here. I think they'll go into that bed as well. Brussels sprouts, same problem. Aha! Onions. Beetroot's the same. Beetroot can be quite big, so that may interfere, so I'm going to put those in there. Same with the broccoli. So I'm going to put onions in here all around the outside. Peas in the middle, onions on the outside. Now I've had some luck with these Spanish onions, the early California red. They've been quite good. These are just a little black seed, very, very small. So as I said, I've had a lot of luck with the Spanish onions this year, but that was a summer crop. Theoretically, I should be able to plant them now and get another crop because they're an all year round crop. And what I'm going to do is a little furrow like that. That's probably a bit better idea. And then I'll just fill the furrow in. That's going to be a much better idea. So I'm just going to very gently, that little furrow, pat it down, and that's going to get a watering. On the other side, we're going to put just a, this is a cream gold, just a standard onion, cream gold. We'll see how many seeds we have here. So what I'm going to do is a furrow right along there, and a second furrow up the middle. That still should leave room for the peas to do their thing. Now, we're supposed to thin these out when they come up as seedlings. And that's exactly what we'll do. Now you think, I find it hard because I think, oh, you poor little onion, I've got to get rid of you. It's not your fault, you've got to die. But if you don't thin them out, there you go, I've used them all up. If you don't thin them out, they're competing for resources, they're competing for light. I mean, water and fertiliser is not such a problem, but they're competing for light and space and air. One thing you've got to be careful of with vegetables is you're actually getting enough circulation. That's particularly important with tomatoes. If you have your tomatoes too close together and you're watering them a lot, which you need to do, you're potentially going to rot out. And what that just needs now is a little bit of fine quality H2O. I'm not giving them any fertiliser in here. I've already put some in the actual compost there. It's got animal manure composted down. I've got some of my well rotted down compost. It's got some pelletized fertiliser about 10 centimetres down, maybe 5 to 10 centimetres, so it'll hit that once it turns into a seedling. So, and as well as that, I've given it a very, very light feed of liquid fertiliser, trace elements and sea salt. So it has everything it needs. So now all I do is need to hit it for water for a little while. In fact, I'm going to give it no more fertiliser until I see seedlings pop up. There's really no point. We can very happily kill things with kindness, and I have done that before with plants, giving them too much fertiliser. Rightio, let's look at our third, and for today, our last garden bed. These are 3 garden beds set up, and I've got one over here as well that's partially planted out. So what I'm going to do is mark this out with some of these pieces of wood that I've got here. I'm going to put Brussels sprouts up the end in this area because they may need some trellising to support them. There we go, a couple of furrows. Brussels sprouts on that side, date on the other side. Now the beetroot, how far apart am I growing these? I forget. Oh yeah, about 20 centimetres, that's okay. These are a larger seed, so these seeds are probably about 3 millimetres across. They're a spiky looking thing. So even in an area where it doesn't get a lot of sun in winter, they just seem to thrive in this environment. And I've been cooking them and preserving them, and I tell you what, they're pretty damn tasty. And unlike what you get from the shop, they don't have that sort of, you know, what chemicals put in here type mystery about them, because when you preserve them yourself, it's a pretty easy process and you know exactly what's going into that jar. And I've been eating those over summer, and yeah, really, really yummy. Beetroot sandwich. Don't knock it till you tried it. A couple of slices of whatever your favourite bread is. I prefer sourdough because it's, of the breads, it's probably one of the least worst. Bread's not that good for you, even though it's incredibly tasty. There we go. And heap of butter. It's got butyrate in it. Good salted butter, good quality, organic if you can. Chuck on some beetroot and you've got yourself a nice lunch. There we go. So that one's beetroot. Now again, 3 furrows. And all I'm going to do here, because I've got lots of seeds, is, and these are a big seed like beetroot are. Quite obvious. Those are the onion ones, tiny. But these are large. Now spinach also does pretty well in this environment. Popeye be pleased. There we go. And that's just going to get a water and nothing else. Well, let's pat that down. So we've got our spinach growing. And again, I'd expect that to be popping out of the ground probably next 3 to 4 weeks. Germination 14 to 21 days. There you go. 2 to 4 weeks or 2 to 3 weeks. What are these carrots going to do? They are going to germinate in 10 to 21 days. There you go. So this will be a quick thing if it happens. Right. Furrow, furrow, furrow. And these are tiny little seeds. So we just sprinkle them along. And we don't want Bugs Bunny up here eating these. And that's why these tall garden beds are great. Done. Now this soil is already moist. I gave it a good water last night. But now I've planted, it gets another good water, as do the next beds. Brussels up the end, we'll give them a good water. And these guys will get a water every couple of days, unless it's raining, of course. This is the beetroot, beautiful. And the cauliflowers, I've just brought these. These are a quick heart. I've never yet grown cauliflowers here after years of trying because of where I had the bed. But now that I've got it here out in the full sun, I'm going to do 2 furrows here. I'm hopeful. These are quite a small seed, probably less than 1 millimetre. And I'm putting plenty in. It's like $4 worth of seeds. I've probably used about 1/3 of them. And what I may do, we'll see how successful this is in about 8 weeks, I might plant some more in a different bed if these are successful. And then I will have ongoing cauliflowers for a while. There you go, once again, that gets some water. So it actually is all planted out. I have carrots, I've got spinach, beetroot, cauliflower, and Brussels sprouts, which will probably end up with a trellis. I've got a tomato trellis I can put up here for them to grow on. And that's all my brassicas in a nice space. So there you go, get your hands dirty this weekend and get into it. Refresh your garden beds, put your brassicas in, try some onions, spinach, broccoli, cabbage. This is a great time to be doing this, and you're going to benefit in a couple of months with a beautiful winter crop. Thanks for your time as always, and until next time, happy gardening. See ya.